I'm Matthew Burchette, and this is Behind the Wing. All right, so now we're actually flying in an O-2 Skymaster. The O-2 Skymaster was purpose-built for forward air control, which means that the pilot actually was also an artillery observer. These guys, their raison d'etre was to send in aerial strikes or artillery strikes on the bad guys. And this is what the view would have been like for a forward air controller in Vietnam. And you can look out every window and see a lot of stuff, which of course comes in quite handy. But we're going to come into land and then we're going to do a walk around and kind of learn some more about this high-tech bird.
Oh my God, Rick, that was awesome.
Great.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
In case you guys don't know, this is Rick Basile. He was our pilot for our flight. Now, Rick, one of the things you were pointing out to me before we kind of got up in the air is something that I want to show to our viewers. Can we go see the leading edge?
Sure.
Okay, I know you restored this plane, but there's some dents up here. What's going on with that?
This airplane shot phosphorus rockets. The rocket would come out, the plastic cap that's holding in the fins would depart, hit the leading edge of the wing, and cause that little bit of damage. And so here's the rail that's going on it. It's attached to these bolts right here. The 7 rocket pod would be held underneath this.
Okay, and so then these guys were firing Willie Pete white phosphorus to mark the target.
Correct.
Because that stuff just puts out a big white cloud. You know what, let's take a look at the inside, because on the outside she's all O2, but on the inside she is sexy.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's check that out. All right, so this is not the cockpit that a FAC would have flown in Vietnam.
Not even close. First of all, 500 pounds lighter.
That's nuts.
Yeah, that's it.
So how did you get this thing? Where does this guy come from?
A group of, I think there were 7, maybe 8, that J.W. Duff bought from the Air Force.
Okay.
And had them delivered from Davis-Monthan Air Force Base, Tucson, to Greeley.
That's interesting because the O-2 at Wings came from Duff. So these guys are like brothers.
Brothers.
Well, Rick, thank you so much. This has been cool. You know what? I am so pumped that I want to get back to the museum and take a look at ours and just see what we've been doing on that. So, hey, Mr. Cameraman, take us home.
Woo. Oh, that took a little bit longer than expected. All right, so we're back at Wings Over the Rockies. This is our O-2 Skymaster, and this right here is Nolan Hargrave. Nolan is one of our super awesome volunteers, and he is the lead on the restoration project. So, Nolan, tell me, why the O-2? We got a lot of planes here that could use some help, but why the O-2?
The O-2 for Vietnam veterans is one of those things when you needed help out in the field, you call on the radio, the O-2s would show up, and depending on the situation, I know in 1968 I was in a situation where we needed help. I called, our radio man called, an O-2 showed up and actually directed fire from the USS Iowa, firing 16-inch rounds over our heads within 300 to 500 yards. So we've always had a warm spot in our hearts for O-2s.
Let's go take a look around this old girl, because you guys are doing some amazing stuff, and I really want to see what we're doing back here.
One thing folks need to understand, this actually sit outside in Greeley, Colorado, in the sun for 30 years and really deteriorated. We had to strip it right down to the bare metal. We're going to have it painted. It's going to be just like new.
What's this little guy back here? Why do you have a little window here and not maybe up front for the pilot?
This plane will have 2 M16 rifles, machine guns, that in case there were people riding in the back seat and it landed or they needed to return fire, you can actually open this up and it was a gun port window.
No kidding. I kind of see the interior from here. We looked at Rick's interior and that was a dead sexy glass cockpit.
Let's take a look at this one because it's not really that much glass in there, is there?
No.
Ooh, boy, this looks a little bit different than Rick's.
Actually, we have about 80% of all the original gauges and switches. We're missing 2 down here. We're missing 1 here, 1 here. Right up sitting up here was a manual gun sight that the pilot actually used when they were flying the rockets. They weren't guided missiles, they were just rockets. And these are very hard to come by, so if you know anybody that's got one.
You heard it here, folks. If you've got a gun sight for an O-2,
yes,
let us know. I think my favorite part in here is the ashtray. How cool is that?
When we opened it up for the first time, we found L&M cigarettes. The only thing this thing needs is an 8-track tape down here. But...
You know, Nolan, you have done an amazing job with this, and I really want to thank you for taking this on as a project. Not a lot of people realize what a huge role the O-2 played in Vietnam, and obviously you told us that right at the very beginning, what it means to you, which kind of gets me to thinking, you know, how did the O-2 get to be where it was? You know, where did liaison birds start? Wait, I know a guy who's got an L6. We can fly down to Falcon and see him. We're not gonna take this plane, but we can go check him out. Ooh, that would be good. Cameraman, let's get going. All right, so we're out here in the super chilly with Brian Christian. Brian, it's good to see you again, man. Brian owns this L6 little liaison bird. Brian, kind of give us the rundown on this guy.
These guys were used in World War II as observation aircraft. The interesting thing was the Germans, if you could bring one of these down, the Germans would reward the troops with a week's vacation or paid leave.
No kidding.
But by the same token, once you fired on them, they had
all hell breaks
thousands
loose.
of pounds of ammunition behind them.
Well, let's do kind of a walk around. Tell me about this plane. Let's check it out.
Okay.
All right, so as you can tell, there's not a lot of room in here. And we're talking steel and good old fabric. Brian, tell us a little bit about what we're looking at in here.
Well, if you'll notice, the windows are actually slanted out.
Yeah, what's up with that?
That's for observation, so you can actually look down and look
holy
under
cow.
the aircraft.
Yeah, you really can.
So
that is so cool.
It has amazing visibility, and a lot of the aircraft was actually built by high school kids.
No kidding.
Another
I'm
interesting.
feeling really safe right now.
If you'll notice, there are initials stamped in each weld. After they were welded, the inspector would stamp his initials in the welds.
I'm telling you, it's kind of like flying around in a '67 Beetle or something.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and aircraft really haven't changed that much.
All right, so what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to give you one of the super awesome features of the L6. We don't know if it's going to work.
So yeah, you would be you have to stay facing forward during takeoff and landing.
Takeoff and landing, seat tray up in locked position.
So now it's time to observe. Turn around.
What?
And stick your feet behind the seat back you have here. It turns into a table.
All right, so without hitting the pilot.
Now you're watching my 6, and you have a table where you can...
I got my map.
Yeah.
I got you. You know, this isn't bad. I could live like this. I could have seen World War II like this, as long as nobody's shooting at me. Thank you guys for tuning in. We love doing what we're doing, and we love that you guys are watching us. This has been a very chilly episode of Behind the Wings, but come on, what's not to like? Now, in case you didn't know, these guys were called Grasshoppers, and go to our show notes and we'll tell you why. Also, leave your comments and questions at Facebook and YouTube, and if you want to help keep Behind the Wings going, go to wingsmuseum.org and look up our donate tab, because we would love to keep this series going. Anyway, we'll talk at you later.